Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larosiliere, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve Larosiliere. Today's guest is Daniel Dodd from Hudson Builders in Austin, Texas. How you doing, Daniel?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for hopping on the podcast. Give us the backstory. How did Hudson Builders get its start?
Yeah, so we started in 2020. So it was, Austin was kind of bananas at that time. I was working for another builder here in Austin, still a good friend of mine. And at that time, it just kind of made sense. COVID hit and things were a little iffy. So we split ways. And at the time, I had a really good relationship with, my subcontractor base. And a lot of those guys reached out at that time, kind of early 2020, and we're just like, hey, if you ever want to start your own thing, let us know because we'd love to jump on board with you. And that was kind of the confidence that I needed to jump in and start it. And to be honest, I was never really, I didn't have my target wasn't, small business ownership at least in the near future. It was something maybe down the road, but that kind of just accelerated everything and jumped in. And my early sub base, it's construction, so the sub base changes quite a bit, but those guys early on were monumental into, our kind of early success to get my feet on the ground. So we started 2020. The Austin market was just crazy. People were, not really looking to there was a lot of remodel opportunity, and it was just me, no employees. My motto at the time was just kind of say yes to whatever, presents itself. So whether that was somebody needed new sod, or they needed, just a vanity replaced, something like that. I had the resources, I had the guys, and was just getting my name out there. So whatever it took, and then just slowly kind of built up to, small additions or small bathroom remodels to, up to $1 million remodel over the course of a few years. And now we're here. So I've got 2 employees, 3 of us total, and a pretty large sub base, good reputation in Austin. So, we're still young, but we're making great progress considering it's, coming up on 4 years.
That's wild. So because of the pandemic and how uncertain it was with your last employer, you had a good relationship with a bunch of subs. You took on the role as essentially like head visionary project manager / GC, and you took whatever job it was possible that was to get started.
I was everything. I was, GC.
You were building too? You're building as well?
No, some of those early jobs I was manning the backhoe or the skid steer. Just again, it's just kind of whatever we needed to do. And
sure.
We were young, and I needed to get some work, get some jobs under my belt to post on Instagram and post on the website, things like that. So yeah, it was just me and doing just about everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you, in the beginning, did you have like what were some of the challenges with that approach, taking everything?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple different things. Like large scale was I didn't go to business school. I was kind of just figuring it out. So, from kind of a high level was like, what do I need as a business? Do I think some of the hardest questions I was trying to answer was like, when do I hire people? When do I expand? When do I grow? When do I play it conservative? When, you know, and kind of internally, I'm not a huge, I am more now, but I wasn't a huge risk taker. So something like small business ownership was definitely something that tested my um, kind of risk tolerance. Like what
And
do I spend money on?
your
Eh,
comfort zone, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, was living well out of my comfort zone pretty much all the time.
Mm,
And then so those are the big things. Like when do I hire? Do I want to grow? What's my 5-year vision? What's my 10-year vision? What's my 20-year vision? Things like that. Versus what do I use to invoice clients? And do I use
yeah.
QuickBooks? Do I use Excel? How do I price documents? What pricing structure do I use? Things like that were really, I again didn't go to business school. I was just kind of figuring it out on my own, which
Like
looking back, I loved.
accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah.
accelerated
Yeah. Yeah.
entrepreneur. Yeah, because I did
Accelerated
something.
trial by fire.
eh, Yes, trial by fire is a great way to put it. Yep.
Yeah. Um, did you go in with like a certain set of services that you felt confident selling in the beginning? Because like, did you like take anything, or did you like advertise a particular thing because you knew that you had strong subs in those categories? Like, how did you start like picking which services to do that you knew that you could turn over fast to get the money? And because I recognize what you just said, like I needed proof of work for like my socials, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a little bit of a game, right?
Yeah. It's hard going to a customer and them asking, do you have a website? Do you have an Instagram? And you've got two photos on your Instagram. They're not professionally done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful for those early clients because it was very much a like you're trusting me to do your landscaping well, knowing I don't have a huge like reference base or referral base.
Yeah.
And then to answer your question, I think there were um, I had a really good landscape guy,
Mm-hmm.
so a few of those early jobs were landscape. Um, you know, one of my this may have actually been my first job was from a referral from a designer that I knew, that was one of the first things I did was reach out to all my um, relationships with architects and designers and just saying, hey,
Mm-hmm.
get my name out there, start my own thing. If you got work, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And so a friend of mine, designer friend of mine, um, gave me this referral, and it was a couple. They wanted some backyard work done, so they wanted. What do we do over there? We kind of regraded the whole backyard. They put in I forget the name, but it's like a shipping container pool.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember the name of the brand, but again, this is one that was a little funny because it was me and my landscape guy doing, figuring this out. And so he got everything graded and the pad set, and then I rented and I've got quite a bit of experience driving, heavy machinery. So I rented a massive forklift, and we kind of jerry rigged this shipping container pool to say, I mean, we saved them probably 15 grand from a crane use, and we just drove this thing in the backyard,
Wow.
set the pool. Uh, it was a little
It was
sketch,
above
but
ground or below
it
ground?
was it was above ground.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But
Okay. Oh,
it's
so
a
you
cool
just need
company.
to make it level, right? Like
We
it's
just Yeah, in my head that was like, you just make it level. We'll set the pad, but then that thing's heavy, and when the water's in, it'll set. And so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was a fun job looking back because it was one of those where you just kind of like each moment you're just kind of figuring it out as best you can. So back
That's
to your
cool.
question, landscaping was one of the guys that I had pretty early. I did have a really good framer, a good HVAC guy, so we could definitely do good drywall guy. So we could do, you know, some additions. It's just when you're in those now with our scope of work, I wouldn't consider those large scale, but like a small addition at the time was like, if it was $150,000 job, that was massive for me.
That was everything for you. Yeah,
That
yeah,
that was
yeah.
everything. And so
Yeah, yeah,
like we
yeah.
had the guys, we just were relying on a customer to say, hey, I know you're new and we're going to risk it, with you.
Yeah.
And luckily those, some of those clients you know, were trusting enough to give us the jobs. And it's fun looking back at those early jobs though.
Yeah. How did you a question I always have is like how did you approach customer experience? Because like typically in in this line of work, it's kind of like either the client, so like the client is helping dictate the pace, and the contractor is like responding, and it's like this undynamic, or it's the contractor is controlling the pace and is not the clearest of communication, that sort of stuff. Like, and there's like this lack of trust that like messes up everybody. All right. And so
Yeah.
how did you approach that? And how did you approach it then? And how do you approach it now?
Honestly, I would say they're pretty similar from early on until now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started, that was one of maybe my biggest driver in starting the company was I had worked with big companies, small companies, construction, non-construction.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of good experience in terms of just general workforce. Like I worked
Yeah.
anything from retail to fitness to manual labor. And one thing that always was a priority for me was just the customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this, anybody in some fairly decent sized market or not even a big market, but they know that construction can be complete chaos, and
For sure.
it's hard to find reliable people and
Trustworthy people too.
trustworthy people, and a lot of people get duped. I hear that story far more often than I would like. Is, hey, we're calling you because our contractor ran off with 100 grand, and we're
Yeah.
starting over.
Yeah.
And so my mission early on, and I still feel this way very, very strongly, but was focused on just being a different contractor and a contractor that somebody could trust, that they enjoyed working with, that, they can let into their home and they're not going to worry about, somebody swiping something or mistreating their house.
Yeah.
And that's like, to this day, that's like one of our foundation kind of pillars in our company. Is it's like, hey, we're going to take it on the chin a couple times if it means giving the customer you know
What they want.
a better experience than they would find elsewhere.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And if that means us sacrificing some profit, or um, us admitting, hey, we messed up, we're sorry, we'll make it right. Like that's the attitude that I want us to have, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like, hey, it's me, it's the GC versus the architect versus the homeowner, and there's
Yeah.
always this kind of like trinity of like tension where everybody's like on their toes and everybody's kind of playing defense and there's no collaboration. Something like that is what we want to avoid.
Sure. 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 Yeah, and I could see the potential of people throwing other people under the bus as well.
Yeah, happens far too often.
Right. So was it a conscious decision to, based off of your prior experience, to only do residential, or do you do some commercial as well?
we're open to doing commercial.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I think there's, I'm sure there are people that would disagree with me, but I do think there's a lot of construction is kind of riding the wave. And right now, residential remodel is the like the wave that we're riding. We know
Yeah.
how to ride it. We've got the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody comes to us and they say, "Hey, we've got $1 million budget. We want to gut our house. We want to do X, Y, and Z."
Yeah,
That is like we know how to execute that really well.
for sure.
And so we would do commercial.
Yeah.
Those opportunities have come across my plate a few times, and nothing that's really stuck. But um, we would be open to it for sure, and I think it's something that we would enjoy and be able to just add to our portfolio at some point.
Yeah. Give me a look at who's your team right now. You said yourself and there's two employees.
Yep.
What do they do?
So I've got Trevor is our project manager,
Mm-hmm.
so he runs everything on the job, schedule, most of the client interaction, all the subcontractor interaction. So
Mm-hmm.
he's basically the engine of the project. He's pushing the schedule. He's getting the guys out there, putting out fires, things like that.
Yeah.
Kelly is our.
How'd you find him?
I found him on. I think I found, yeah, on Indeed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was also
Was
a
he
fun
your first
experience.
hire? Was he your first hire?
No, he was. I had two project managers before him.
Okay.
So some were, you know, they kind of started part time to full time,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a huge lesson on my end is finding the right people and paying the money for the right people, because
Mm-hmm.
early on, again, like I said, pretty conservative, and so I was trying to
Penny
you know
pinch.
penny pinch on employees, and
For sure.
that that's a
That's
in my opinion,
hard.
that's a bad place to pinch
Penny.
pennies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What made him stick?
uh his demeanor, he's great with clients. He is a hard worker. He came from kind of like a tract home
Mm-hmm.
background, so you know he's got the motor to push jobs. I mean, they're cranking out, like, one of their project managers is managing probably, I don't know, 20 to 40 houses,
Dang.
which is crazy. And then
So a custom job is easy. Like,
it's I think it was definitely a transition because
yeah,
it's you're still wanting to push pace, but there's so many more decisions that have to be made kind of in real time
yeah, yeah,
that it probably for him probably felt like he was pushing a boulder uphill at times,
sure.
because he's just like, we got to wait on the client to, or the architect or the designer to spec tile before we get the tile out there. So it's like a lot of dominoes that need to fall correctly,
Yeah, yeah,
as opposed to just like, hey, here's everything that they ordered. Here's all the tile
yeah.
selections. We've done it on 20 other houses, and the guys know what to do.
Same
So
thing.
that
Yeah,
there's definitely a kind of a change in pace and a change of mindset that goes on. But he adjusted real quick, and you know, clients tell me all the time, it's like he's just, you can't really ruffle his feathers, and I think
calm
that's a
demeanor. Yeah,
a calm demeanor is something that you have to have, because I've had prior experiences where a project manager is like getting into it with the homeowner, and I show up and I'm like, this is completely unprofessional, and it looks bad on us, and under no circumstances can that happen. And that, with Trevor, that's just not the case. Like, he's incredibly respectful. He's good with the subs, good with the clients, pushes the pace. So he's been a fantastic hire.
yeah, yeah. That's great. That's great.
Yep.
And then who's your second person?
That's Kelly. And Kelly does a lot for us. She's project coordinator. And
Okay.
so
She works
her,
underneath or in between you two?
she works kind of in tandem with Trevor. So
Okay.
I came to a point probably a little over a year ago, around a year ago, where I was like, in my head, I was like, man, I feel like I've got like a month or two left of this because jobs were really stressful. 2023 was, kind of all over the place for us. And I
Mm-hmm.
got to a point where I was running on fumes. And I knew pretty clearly that I needed a project coordinator and a project manager that both work in tandem to kind of relieve the pressure on me. And,
Mm-hmm.
because again, I was doing for 3 years, I was doing everything and I just couldn't do everything. I could do everything okay and
Yeah.
I could manage okay, which presented problems, and I could do the back end stuff okay, and I could all of it just like mediocre. And so I knew that I needed to hire people specifically to take work off my plate. And, project manager, project coordinator were the two that I was like, I have to hire these. Like, it's got to happen, or else, we're going to be in trouble. I'm going to be in trouble, just was getting burnt out. And so Kelly does a lot for us. She helps Trevor with ordering materials. She does a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the communication with the designers, architects, homeowners, and building out spec books. She's a previous designer too, so she's got good experience with how we organize things, but how it still is easy to access for our subcontractors and Trevor. So if Trevor needs the most updated set of plans, he knows exactly where to go to get it. And
Mm-hmm.
a few months ago we started implementing like QR codes on the job site. So
Huh.
a you know
How
a,
does that work?
so each QR code is just basically linked to a folder
Okay.
with the correct documents in it. So we'll print out and we'll laminate a QR code. We'll nail it up to you know the the kitchen, and so any subcontractor can come there, scan the code, and it's got the most updated plans. It's got tile selection, floor selection, floor layout, grout color, all that stuff. Um,
How'd you learn that? Did you come up with that yourself?
no, I had seen it,
Yeah.
online before, and that's such a problem in construction is guys show up and there's a plan set laying on the ground, and
Yeah.
that plan set could be, two or three
Old.
iterations old.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so electrician goes in there and he lays all the can lights and he's doing his job, but it was, the GC's fault or whoever to not provide him with an updated plan. And so maybe that all changed and he did it wrong. And then somebody's got to pay to get it redone. And so having
Mm-hmm.
just, help using technology and helping us kind of just keep up with the pace of the job. And that's what it's done. It just allowed us to just on our computer, on your phone, architect
Mm-hmm.
sends an updated set of plans. We just
And it
go in
goes.
there, we pull the old one out, put the new one in, and that way nobody's running into to problems like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what's mainly your role these days, 4 years in?
My role is so I do all of our estimating, you know, early client interaction, selling jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and I put a big emphasis the past few months into just more networking. So reaching out, finding new relationships with architects, designers, builders, um, and that's actually been, um, I think, one of the more valuable ways I've spent my time in the last few years is just trying to network and building relationships with builders and architects and designers. Austin's such a collaborative community, and so
Yeah.
the feedback that I've got is, reaching out to some of these builders who are doing 5, 10, $20 million homes has been overwhelmingly positive. And, it's a good way to potentially draw leads because, we're not like in competing markets
Yeah. 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 They could refer
and
stuff over to you.
refer stuff to us. And, if for whatever reason we get a $10 million home, we're not going to, we, right now we're not structured to do that. And
Yeah.
so I've got some great relationships to where I can say, hey, you know, here's a great job. Take a look at it. Um, and it's just that's one of my favorite things about Austin is just how collaborative it is. Even somebody in my own market, somebody who's like a mid to upper end remodeler,
Mm-hmm.
like we can still share techniques and we can get coffee and talk about our businesses without feeling like we've got to kind of keep our cards to our chest.
Close. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Was there a particular project where, that you finished, or, maybe it was your first biggest projects where you were like, hey, I think this is it. I found the thing. This project really kind of set the path for where you are right now. Do you have a project like that?
Um, I think, I don't think I've got one project, but I think there are like, if you look at like just kind of the timeline of our business, I think there are like blips where, we kind of are here and then we get a job and we kind of, you know, elevate a little bit and then we kind of coast there for a little bit and then we elevate
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple jobs. One, I think our first like large scale gut was
Is
was a
that
big
the
one for
hoarder
us.
home?
No, yeah, that was actually my personal house.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay, okay, okay.
yeah, and that was a trip. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Um, just I again just I think one of the perks of doing what I do is
Mm-hmm.
it's fun to go in a house like that and be like, absolutely, this house has potential.
Yeah.
And it was fun because I designed it all and I had a little help from a designer friend, but I definitely wanted to design it myself. I'm no
Yeah.
designer, but I've got a B and design taste, I'd say,
Sure, sure.
and so that was a fun project to just kind of take on and do myself.
That's cool.
Um, but yeah, there was one that was a full gut and wasn't a big. It was a small house. It was like 1,000 square feet, and it was with
Mm-hmm.
an architect um, that we have a really really good relationship with. Her name's Harmony here in Austin,
Mm-hmm.
and that one was just like, all right, we finally broke into like the full gut. You know that one. We were in the mid 300s, 300,000 for the scope, and so just felt like we were in kind of a different league. And
Yeah.
then we were in there, and then we kind of hit our $500,000 or $600,000 job
Mm-hmm.
where it had nicer finishes. It was a little bigger house, but the scales. I mean, when you're gutting a house, it's like you're utilizing every trade. And
Yeah.
so whether it's 1,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet, like you're still using all those trades. And so, but it just felt like you were on a different playing field once we hit you know, a little bit more higher end finishes. Had a architect, designer, GC all collaboratively kind of working towards finishing this house,
Yeah.
and obviously homeowner. And so, and then last year, again elevated to kind of the $1 million range, and that was again feels kind of the very similar because you're doing a lot of the same stuff, but the stakes are a
Mm-hmm.
little
Mm-hmm.
higher, and they're spending a lot of money, and it's just I think we've done a good job of like getting our processes dialed in for now. Again, those will
Mm-hmm.
change for sure, but just getting the recipe down to where it's like, yeah, we can do a $200,000 remodel and do really, really well, or we can do a
Yeah.
1.5 to $2 million remodel and deliver a fantastic product.
That's so
And
cool. Yeah.
it's just kind of we know what we're getting into at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what how's this year going for you?
This year's been great. Last year we took a couple gut punches, and so which was it was good, um, because it definitely kind of lit the fire, under my butt to not have that happen again. And
Yeah.
some of it was our fault, some of it was not our fault. At the end of the day, we're still affected. And so I came into 2024 with a lot of motivation to just, you know, like kind of densify our team, make sure
Mm-hmm.
that we're on the same page. Everybody feels comfortable in their role. Uh, Communication lines are open. We know what to expect. Um, Clients, architect, designers, they know what to expect from us as the builder. And so I would say 2024 is probably feels like our most focused year,
Yeah.
in terms of like, hey, for now, we're a mid to high end remodeler. We know our market, we know our ideal job type, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to go out and find those jobs. I'm going to go out and find those jobs, and then I'm going to close those. I'm going to, bring those in, and then our team's going to execute,
Team's
and
gonna manage it. Yeah, yeah.
team's going to manage it, and the the
Yeah.
okay, um, yeah, the handoff is um, should be pretty seamless, to where it's like, hey, here's our job, here's our plans, architect, designer we're working with. I'm handing this off to Trevor and Kelly. We know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And so
Cool.
2024 has been fun. We've got, even the last few months has picked up quite a bit in terms of just people reaching out
Yeah.
and wanting jobs. So, it's been a good year, and our team is pretty well focused and buckled up for the year.
Awesome. Awesome. What technology do you use to run the business? Like project management, communication internally. What do you use?
Yeah, so we don't use yet. I've used Builder Trend in the past and some of those other, um, platforms for communication and just organization. And I like them. I don't think we're quite ready to, if somebody from Builder Trend is watching this, they're like, yeah, you're ready. You need to start. But
Yeah.
we,
Yeah. Yeah.
we just, my issue in the past has just been getting everybody on board exclusively to use
Yeah.
one kind of technology. Um, so right now we're kind of just still pretty, I don't know what the word, not like, we don't have any of that technology that we implement right now. It's all, I price using, my own pricing document on Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we use is pretty much on Google Drive, that can be shared within the team. And then, yeah, I mean, my accountant and I, we use QuickBooks, on the
Mm-hmm.
back end of things. And so, and then just, yeah, just email for now.
Yeah. 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 What about uh things that you've like in terms of like how do you stay personally motivated and focused? Like what kind of things do you do as a CEO of a you know mid-tier higher end remodel? Like what do you do for personal professional development?
Um, so professional, I would say establishing, and I would give this advice to anybody, whether they're, doing $100 million a year or they're doing $200,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
um, is establishing like a mentor in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a mentor, um, for the most part since I started, and
Mm-hmm.
he owns, a construction company that is just a little bit, they're a few steps ahead of us,
Yeah.
and he runs the company the way I want to run my company. He treats his employees the way I want to treat my employees. So we're just kind of trying to copy his template for the most part. We're very like minded,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's been good to have him where I can bounce things off. Like, hey, does this seem risky? Does this seem too risky? Like, what did you do in this situation? Um, Whether that's, you know legal advice, or, and he's not a lawyer, but, legal advice or financial advice,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
just organizational structure. When did you hire employees? Like, you know did you ever hire multiple at a time? Things like that where I don't have the answer. Um, but he has the answer through experience and is willing to share that with me. So having people like that in your circle is huge for me. And then, you know, aside from that, like I did not do, I didn't say, I'd say last couple of years, work-life balance, I think on the outside probably looked fine. Like I wasn't working till 10 p.m. all the time, you know, rarely, but my days were hot and I would allow, hot as in just a lot going on, you know, from the
Yeah,
moment
yeah,
I
yeah.
woke up till the moment I went to bed, there's
Putting
something
out
that
fires. Yeah, yeah.
putting out fires. Exactly. That was
Yeah,
my
yeah.
job. And I got to a point where I just like would have a ton of anxiety just opening up my Gmail and just like
Mm,
what's going to pop up and like
yeah.
a pit in my stomach where I would feel sick opening it up. And so I got to the point probably mid to late last year where I turned my Gmail notifications off. Um, I would not check it, you know, uh, I would do my best to not check it kind of on weekends and after like 6 p.m.
Yeah.
because again, I'd get one bad text or one bad email and it would ruin my night or my day, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Those
And
th- those things it's kind of the worst, but then you're like low key addicted to like checking to see if there's anything to confirm how you're feeling, right? It's kind of the worst.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I went on a trip just a few weeks ago, and it was the longest trip I've taken probably since I've had my company.
Hmm.
And I was at a self service, and I felt it was the first time I've ever felt like not bothered by work
Yeah.
for the full like 7 days. I was like, I didn't check my phone, nothing blew up, and that's a testament to Trevor and Kelly. But I was like, oh my gosh, what a relief to just be able to do that, you know.
Yeah.
And the previous 3 years, it's like every time I'd leave, I'm just trying to find service or trying to get on my phone to just make sure everything's okay. And so that was a big step, was just like drawing a line in the sand, saying, all right, my email is off limits from this time to this time,
Yeah.
and it'll be there in the morning when I wake up. If it's, and if it's an absolute emergency, they'll call me and we'll deal with it then. But I just could not, I'd look at my email. I'm like, oh, I can read that email, knowing it was a tough email. I'm like, oh, I can read that and just, respond later. But then
Yeah.
I look at it, and then the next 8 hours, my mind is just turning,
Yeah.
thinking about
Stress.
what I got to
The,
do. And
a worst case scenario keeps popping up. You keep replaying it, playing it, right? It's like,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, um, I like fitness is a big one for me. Um, just when I get off work, before or after going to the gym, um, really helps clear my head. And whether that's traditional lifting or, jujitsu, it's like either of those, if you're training hard enough, there is no capacity to stress about work,
yeah,
you
yeah.
because you're worried about,
Get it out of your head, right?
yeah, you have to force it out of your head. And if I'm focused, like in jiu-jitsu, if I'm focused on the instruction or I'm focused on a role, there
Mm-hmm.
there there is zero capacity for work to creep in. And so last year especially, that was like, I mean, it really was kind of a godsend, just because that was 2 hours that I couldn't think about work.
Yeah,
And it was like I would start and then I would finish my workouts, or my training, and as soon as I got done, I would feel kind of the work cloud settle back in.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it was a bummer, but at the same time I was like, man, what a relieving 2 hours to sweat, get some training
Get it
in,
out of your head. Yeah,
get out of my head. And a lot of improvements have been made just kind of on that, with that balance, as of late. But
yeah,
um, those things, are monumental for me in terms of just keeping kind of a level head.
for sure, for sure. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Thanks for sharing that. So this is a part of the podcast where I give you any marketing or business advice. Is there anything that you need advice on or help with um, while we're on the call?
Well, I'm curious, you brought up technology.
Hmm.
You're doing these interviews and talking to a lot of people. What have you seen that people like to use, or technologies or systems that people are using in this industry?
So people are using. I've encountered a couple people that are using Buildertrend.
Hmm.
Um, the so I interviewed a guy not too long ago. He runs like I think he said a $40 million home building company, and he uses Basecamp, and I
Okay.
use Basecamp, and I was like, whoa! So I actually want to do like a little bit of a deep dive on him, just because like I'm very very curious as to how he's using it, and like, but it's not like he's building lots of projects at once, and so like
Hmm.
Basecamp is good for like detail oriented, no more than like 10 to 15 projects at once, but like you're not doing
Yeah.
that, right? Like, and so
Right.
I like the simple user interface. Other folks are using like Asana,
Yeah. Yeah.
or ClickUp or Monday.com. But I like the simplicity of Basecamp, personally for me,
Interesting.
especially if you have, and you can have everybody in there, all of your subs in there. You can assign tasks, punch lists, that sort of stuff in there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other one, is like, how do you get some of these subs who don't
Yeah.
have an email, or don't use their email
Hmm.
to utilize,
Yeah. You just tell them
a
to
certain platform.
download the app. You don't tell
Hmm.
them to download the app.
Yeah.
And then they can log in, and then they can just see what needs to get done, and then just like hit complete, right? You can
Complete.
assign a
Yeah.
to-do list to them, right?
That's
and
awesome.
um and then you can get notified when they're done as well. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm actually thinking about using it. um uh well, I use it for my agency. I'm thinking about using it for this furniture brand that I just started, and so I'm
Sweet.
curious. Yeah, I'll let you know how that goes, and if I can
Please
come up
do.
with like an
Yeah.
instance, I'll definitely share with you. Was that it? So, but for the most part, you use like Google Docs, spreadsheets, and the QR codes with the folders.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's simple, man. I like that. That's really cool. Yeah,
I think that's why it's work. Again, nothing is, set in stone forever, but for now, it's been a really great. Um, it's just been great because it's simple. Like, our clients use it. Our
yeah,
subcontractors have no problem using it,
hmm,
and it just seems to encompass everything that we need for now. And
yeah,
we could turn around tomorrow and be like, oh well, I gotta find something new to utilize on the job site. But for now, it works
yeah.
great.
That's cool. That's very
Yeah.
cool. Cool. All right. Well, tell everybody your website and Instagram, so they could follow your great work.
Yeah, Instagram is at hudson.builders, and then
Hmm.
website is hudsonbuilderstx.com.
Great. Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Daniel, for your time.
Man, thank
And
you. This is great. Great
yeah, I look forward
questions,
to
and
yeah,
had fun.
yeah, I look forward to getting your story out to the Woodpreneur community.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.